All right, everybody. Welcome to Beers with the Beards, episode 2. We are the Fanstitution, coming to you live from all the way across America. And we're here tonight to recap the divisional round, give some picks for championship weekend, and just generally shoot the shit. But
welcome to Beers with the Beards, celebrating and educating all things sports, one win at a time.
Since it's Beers with the Beards, we're going to start off with what we're drinking tonight. Beard, the founding father, go ahead.
I got an interesting one today from Stranger Roots, another Pennsylvania beer. It's actually a sour called the Kool-Aid. It is a sour beer infused with Concord grape.
Ooh.
Let me crack it in the mic. I know, I'm so excited. 8%, guys. Woo-hoo-hoo.
You know we got a podcast to record, right?
Look at that color, man. Look at the color in that bad boy. That is tasty.
That's delicious. Tonight, the professor is drinking a Synergy Raw Kombucha Gingerade.
That's my favorite flavor.
Trying to avoid the old alcohol for a bit here, so almost like having a beer. Stash, what are you drinking?
Pellegrino.
Good choice. I'm more of a Perrier man myself, but, to each their own.
I think that house is stuffed to the brim with Pellegrino. If I know what house you're in, that house, there's Pellegrino coming out of every orifice of that house.
That is correct.
That's valid. Before we jump into the divisional round recap, I was driving home and I thought of a question of the day. And so I'm going to levy this to the Beard and the Stash. We've got the Pro Bowl coming up. The NFL is the most popular sport in the United States. This is where they showcase their all-stars. It's being held at Allegiant Stadium this year. And what do you think a ticket starts at?
Honestly, if they're not giving them away for free, then they're overpriced. Because no one actually goes to the Pro Bowl. Also, aren't there commercials that they're showing it's flag football this year? Or is that just like a funny ad?
No, it's flag football. It's dodgeball, skills competition.
Well, the dodgeball is interesting to me because I saw Justin Jefferson last year with some sick moves, kind of foreshadowing what he was going to do this year and during the season. Like, that guy's got some moves on the dodgeball court. If he doesn't make it in the NFL, he's going professional dodgeball league for sure.
We'll catch him over on the Ocho. So you kind of beat my point, Stash. You got a guess on how much a ticket to the Pro Bowl starts at?
$250.
Beard, it is Allegiant. It's one of the nicer stadiums.
Still going zero. You know what? If they aren't giving me drink vouchers to go back to the clubs after, I ain't going.
$35. They're basically giving them away.
Terrible.
I don't know how you fix that product. I don't know. I mean, the NBA All-Star Game is a blast to watch. The NHL All-Star Game is a blast to watch. But the product that the NFL has chosen to put out there,
I don't think you can fix it. I mean, the flag football is to kind of protect the players, but these players truly don't want to play in it. So it's like,
so why do it? Why go through the charade?
Tradition. You must have tradition.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Well, let's get into it, boys. Divisional round. First one we're going to discuss the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know that this was a surprise to anyone other than Patrick Mahomes doing it on one damn leg. Beard, what are your thoughts?
Mahomes never ceases to amaze me. I was disappointed. I actually think that the game should have been closer than it was. Like, there's so many plays in that game that won't go down in history, but Kirk missing the bomb, Agnew dropping it on the 2-yard line. I mean, there were some things that I really liked about that game. I loved Lawrence dropping the truck stick. Like, I did not know Lawrence had that in him, and he trucked a few dudes.
Yeah, he did.
I think. Well, I'll let Stash go, and then I'll jump back into this because there's some interesting things from that game.
First off, I'll preface I was at a wedding this weekend and watched a minimal amount of football. My favorite thing from the Kansas City game was the fact that Chad Henne played football because I believe he was at Michigan when I was in like middle school. He has to be almost 40 years old.
Fun fact, he's yet to lose a playoff game he's played in.
There it is. Highlight of my weekend, Chad Henne.
That's incredible. I mean, now I know if Chad Henne's coming in, I'm live betting. The second Henne comes in, I'm live betting and putting the house on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I was blown away. I think he's played in like 2 or 3 playoff games coming in like that on the injury, and they've won every single one. So good luck charm there. Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Who's better, Professor Daniels or Henne?
I think time will tell. If Daniels is hucking bombs, if he could take a team 98 yards after their quarterback's injured and score a touchdown when he's 70 years old, like Kenny is, I think that's what it's going to take to decide it. That's what it's going to take.
Oh, man. I think they're both – you said if time would tell. I think they're both at the end of their career. So I think it's pretty much told already. Yeah, the other things that I thought were interesting from that game, I was betting on Etienne for the over 18.5. Got 18 yards in the first half. Didn't get a single pass the second half. I have no clue. They started bringing in Hasty. I was like, what are you doing? Bringing in this chump, dude. I think that hurt him. I also think Mahomes on one leg is still bigger than most O linemen in the NFL. That dude is a thick man, thick with 15 C's. And it's just impressive to see that dude move. And then last but not least, dude, Kadarius Toney scares the shit out of me. If you watch Kadarius Toney or his interviews, he's killed someone for sure. He's Aaron Hernandez 2.0.
It's entirely possible. I still don't know how the Chiefs fleeced the Giants for him. He had a great rookie season, got injured, and they just gave him away for freaking peanuts and magic beans. He looks like a beast out there. Yeah, he's probably killed somebody. I think safe to say. I want to go back to your Mahomes being, thick with 10 C's, being a beast, and yet still sounding like Kermit the Frog when he talks. And there was some great memes going around the internet Sunday, because obviously with the injury, he's going to be on some stuff. And so the best one I saw was they're going to unleash ketamine Kermit.
Oh, man.
It's going to be interesting, but I mean, high ankle sprain. We watched him try and gut through it. What does he do this week, and what does the Chiefs' game plan look like? I mean, he obviously can't run. You eliminate that running threat. So,
honestly, I think the only way – this is getting into my pick later. The only way that they beat the Bengals is if Travis Kelce not only – takes the snap, but throws it to himself. That is the absolute only way. First off, Mahomes is 0-3 against Joe Burrow. And the more that Joe Burrow wins against you, it's like injecting him with roids. Every time he gets a win against you, a little vial goes into his veins, and he's just eating Mahomes. He's in Mahomes' head, dude. So
yeah,
they have I don't see how they have a shot, even with it being in Kansas City. Like, bro has the iciest veins in the world. Nothing phases that guy.
Yeah. What's the distance between Cincinnati and Kansas City?
Oh my God. Geography lesson. I have no idea. You tell me.
Well, I'm looking it up. It's an 8-hour drive. those Bengals fans will show. They'll show in force. I mean, they showed in Buffalo. I don't know if you heard like some of the Houday chants going off in the Buffalo stadium. They got close last year. I think they're ready to cross the line. So it's going to be interesting. I think if Mahomes doesn't play, it's a no-brainer. I think if he tries to play and is not actually healthy, he tries to give a Jordan flu game, maybe it's close. But you also got to think about long-term, right? Like, there's still a team that's built to win. It's not like you're going to miss the playoffs next year, so why risk it on –
See, I think I disagree. Even though Pacheco or whatever his name is, Pacheco was the missing component for them. I think they remind me a lot of the Seahawk run. That team. Granted, the Seahawk was built on defense. Kansas City is built on offense. But Travis Kelce at some point is going to slow down, and they're all talking about how. I think so. They were talking about him they were talking about them somehow being able to replace Tyreek Hill, and that is pretty impressive in and of itself. But they were able to do it because Kelce's there. If Kelce's gone, Kelce opens up so many windows for Mahomes that I don't know if they're built to win like that.
Yeah, they're really similar to the 49ers where they've got all the right weapons in the right place, and now they're going to be without a quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Well, I say that. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not in the Kansas City Chief training room, but I saw the way dude was walking. I mean, it was didn't look fun.
Dude, getting a first down on one leg, scrambling, might have been one of the greatest non-great plays I've ever seen. Like, no one will have, that will not be something that people replay in the future, but that was so impressive to me.
Yeah. Stash, any last thoughts on this matchup? I know you were about 3 sheets to the wind probably by the time it was over.
Nope.
All right. Moving on. Eagles Giants. Felt like people were surprised. Probably shouldn't have been surprised. I don't know if it's the East Coast, the New York bias. Philadelphia always looked like the better team. The Giants, I mean, God bless them. They outperformed this year, which I think is great. And I think Daboll deserves a lot of credit for that. And I think they got a bright future, but I don't think I saw this game going any other way. What about you guys?
I'm gonna let Stash go first.
So this one we were actually watching at the wedding at the table. I did not think it was going to be as gruesome as it was, and a combination of booze, mushrooms, and a couple other people at the table, one of which is the Beard's brother, talked me into live betting at halftime when the spread dropped to plus 23.5. And they're like, oh, it's a no-brainer. And I was like, God, I haven't gambled in over a month and a half since I've been out here in California. Let me get 50 in on that. And as you guys all know, that went up in flames. New York just got fucking steamrolled. You know, I haven't watched a lot of NFL. This has probably been the most NFL I've watched, at least since like Peyton Manning was like at the Colts. I've never seen a blowout like this before. That's like a college thing, man. I've never seen it at the professional level. Usually it's still, you know, maybe 3 possession game at the most from the small sample size that I have. So it was pretty wild seeing that. But honestly, I'm a huge fan of Jalen Hurts, so I'm pumped to see them moving forward. He's got a really cool career with getting benched at Alabama and transferring in and handling it like a freaking man and a champion and a teammate instead of bitching about it like a lot of kids would these days. So, and he squats like 600 pounds, which is sick. So I'm all behind him moving forward.
Yeah. The first mistake you made was following my brother, dude. My brother doesn't know anything about sports betting.
Yeah, I didn't
Terrible
know that.
idea.
I didn't know if there was like some sort of genetics thing in the family.
Does it
or
run in
if-
the family? Yeah.
No, bad call. But like you, Spence, I feel like every time we get on this podcast, I'm going to talk about my corner bar, my $5 pitcher corner bar. I was at that bar and it was packed to the brim with Philly fans, which I have no clue why the Philly fans were in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's not that close, like 6 hours drive, but they were going wild. And I too was on the Giants, so it was painful to sit there and watch that game play out the way that it did. Big mistake for the Giants was not running Danny Dimes. Like, Danny Dimes is a mobile quarterback that, when leveraged the right way, is not too bad. And the fact that they just did not get him out of the pocket, he doesn't have any receivers to throw to. I don't even know how they made it that far.
Yeah, we heard they just traded Tony away, so it's they succeeded on the back of Jones, and then it's like their game plan fell apart when it came time to put the game on his back.
Did you see? I read an interesting stat. So Daniel Jones, who has not been good in his career, anyone who's watched the Giants, my old coworker, hardcore Giants fan, told me at the beginning of the year that Danny Dimes was going to be good. I was like, you're fucking crazy. But he was okay. He led the league with a 1.1 interception percentage. He only threw 5 picks on 472 attempts this year. That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
How many touchdowns did he throw?
Threw for 15 touchdowns, 3,200 yards.
What's the league average? Just out of curiosity,
that's above the league average. But if
15
let's
TDs
look at his career.
Doesn't seem like a lot. But again, I don't know really what the numbers look like in the NFL.
I love my old school keyboard that just sounds.
I was just about to say I love the mechanical keyboard. It sounds like a sound effect.
I love it. It's literally like ASMR. Let's see. Okay. Jones in his first year, so he came in the league in 2019, 24 TDs but 12 picks. Then he went 11 TDs and 10 picks, 10 TDs and 7 picks, and now he's 15 TDs and 5 picks. So that coach somehow turned Daniel Jones into a competent quarterback in like less than a year, which is insane.
I think, game speed's tough to pick up at the NFL. He played his college ball at Duke. We've talked about the ACC last week, not known for being a traditional powerhouse of a college football. So for him to improve that much over 3 years is pretty impressive. Learning the game speed, obviously seeing his routes better, communicating with the receivers. I think he's got a bright future. He's coming up on his 5th-year contract, right? They can extend him, give him a prove it year and see what they can do. I will say I love it when New York teams lose. Like, it just makes me so happy.
I would be curious if you polled Giants fans to bring Eli Manning back. What percentage would be on board with that versus fucking Danny Dimes right now?
Oh man,
because old Chad Powers was making some pretty good throws at Penn State, if you know what I'm talking about.
He was, but man. if you pull Eli Manning and say, "Would you come back and play?" I could guarantee you that's a 100% sample size no there. So,
dude, Eli by the end of his career looked like he was so ready to be done. He'd have that shoulder shrug after getting sacked 15 times a game. Like, what the fuck? What am I doing out here? He's not coming back, but the fans would love it. Did you hear what the Eagles coach said about Hurts? He said that Hurts has the Jordan effect.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah, legit said he has the Jordan effect. And I guess I can kind of see that because he activates their offense. But it's a pretty bold statement to say about a quarterback 2nd year in the league who did not do well in his first year. He was like a glorified runner in his first year. So that's insane.
It's kind of a strange thing for the coach to say because they had Huntley as the backup and they still did fine while Hurts was out. So
no, Huntley's at
he's at Baltimore. You're right. Who was their backup then?
They got Minshew Mania, dude. Gardner Minshew.
I should know that. Gardner and I are kindred spirits.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. After that game, I think Philly takes a championship. Philly has a 3-headed monster in the backfield right now. Like that, they proved like Gainwell, I think, at 110 yards. So like, if Miles Sanders goes down, unlike Pollard going down, and we'll talk about the game after, killed their offense. If Miles Sanders go down, they have Gainwell. They also have Boston Scott, and Hurts can run the ball. Like, if they get a lead, they're not losing the lead.
I think that's the key, and we could talk that when we talk the matchups, but it's going to be a really interesting NFC matchup because, San Francisco's not without their own weapons. and they've obviously got depth. So I don't know. We could talk that later. Any final thoughts on Eagles Giants? Nope. Moving on.
Hey! I'll drop some interesting stuff for people. Boston Scott next year, if they play the Giants and he's on the team, he's scored in every single game he's played against the Giants. I think his anytime touchdown score had to have been plus 300. Like that, interesting stat for anyone. Second thing, Hurts anytime touchdown, which I was on at minus 120, absolute gift. If anyone wasn't on that, and I'm sorry I didn't put that out there on my betting stuff, but if you weren't on that, Hurts anytime touchdown under minus 150 against a subpar rush defense, you got to take that every time.
Love it. That Boston Scott is what we like to call a beard certified nugget. Just tuck that back away, keep it in your brain for next fall, and then mine it out when the time comes. So let's move on to Bills Bengals. Probably my most anticipated matchup of the week, and maybe my most disappointing matchup of the week. The Bills are at home. It's a snow game in Buffalo. The crowd's raucous. They're ready to go, and they just looked deflated, exhausted. They did not look like the Bills that we've seen, other than Jared Allen. Like I don't know what happened. I was blown away.
I think you meant Josh Allen. Jared Allen was the mullet wearing.
He did. He had
Vikings.
the mullet for the Vikes.
Yep.
You're right. Excuse me. Josh Allen. Jared Allen was an all-time favorite too.
Yeah.
Idaho State grad.
Yep. Oh, man. I don't know. I think Hamlin, I think that the emotions got to them. And I called this last week. I said they don't have a run game. When you don't have a run game, you put too much on Josh Allen. When the Bengals came out and scored on that first drive, you knew it was going to be bad.
It was ugly, and they didn't let up. I was so impressed at the space that the receivers were able to get against that Bills secondary. And then, I mean, I shouldn't be impressed at this point, but Joe Burrow, the way he slung that ball in that kind of weather, the kids, I just love him. I love you, Snow Cool.
G. He's a G. He's a winner. You want to talk about a real winner? I know we talked about Trevor Lawrence last week, and he has never lost on a Saturday or whatever, but Joe Burrow is a fucking dude, and he's going to win a couple Super Bowls, if not more, I think. I don't know, man. Like, everybody's been on Josh Allen's dick, but I don't know if I'm believing in the hype.
I think this was the year for them to do it, and now that they didn't get it, I think I'm with you, Spence. And also going back, like, Joey B is the king of the North. Like, if I'm watching Game of Thrones, he is the Ice King. That is literally who Joe Burrow is. He was out there, no sleeves, no gloves, just hitting dimes nonstop. That guy's mad impressive. But going back to Josh Allen, I think he has too many. He doesn't make smart football decisions, and when you get to playoff football, if you're not making smart football decisions, you're not going to win.
Do you think he's out there playing hero ball, or is it just bad decisions? There's a difference, right? Like Russell Wilson, famous for the hero ball, watched it for a decade, frustratingly.
I think the way that team is set up, he doesn't have to play hero ball. I think he, to Spence's point, came into the league and didn't think he was going to be who he is. He's become who he is, and he's let that dictate he's got to be this, like, superstar player. And he just, when it gets to big games, big decisions, he can't make it. He can't make it work.
That's a really interesting take. I mean, it makes sense, right? He played ball at Wyoming. He had the PMT guys at Barstool like set up a draft Josh Allen website for him, right? Like they set that up. He ends up going to Buffalo and playing really well. But he's had that interception problem for a while now, right?
I mean, last year he got rid of it. It wasn't too bad. This year it came back, but his whole career, yeah, he's had and you saw it. He overthrew Diggs multiple times. That's what I actually want to ask both of you about. Is Diggs done? I feel like by the end of the year, Diggs was starting to lose a step.
Did you see his tantrum that he threw?
No.
Oh, so like he stormed off the field. He tried to leave before everybody else was back in the locker room. As soon as they were released, he was out the door. I think he's done on that team. And if I'm another head coach, I think he's done. I think he's lost his step. And then if you're going to be a locker room cancer, we've seen where these older wide receivers that have lost their step come in and can be cancerous to a locker room. I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. Spence, you're on mute.
This is the only year I've really watched him play, and that's because he was on my fantasy team. And I feel like he started out the season really strong. I mean, he was pretty much grabbing a touchdown every game for maybe the first half of the season, and then just, I don't know, ran out of steam. I'm not sure if he got injured at some point. Did he get injured?
I mean,
No.
I think it's a guarantee that an NFL player is injured at some point in their season.
I couldn't remember if he missed a couple of games. I may be confusing him with Jamar Chase, who I also had. Maybe that was it. I don't know, man. At the end of the day, whether he's still good on the field or not, if you got a dude that's causing issues from a culture standpoint, if I'm managing a program, what doesn't matter what it is, I'm cutting that shit loose.
What a freaking fantasy draft for you. Jamar Chase and Diggs on the same freaking team?
Yeah, if your dad hadn't boned me, I would have still had a chance at winning the whole thing. Number one, with 2 losses all year, no bye, just straight into the fucking playoffs. And I'll lose to Kyle to all fucking people.
And the beard takes it home. The beard takes it home.
Did you win it all?
I did. On the back of CMC, man, just carried me.
Yeah. Fucking fantasy. I think I was dead last in my league this year. It was ugly. Did y'all see Joey B taking shots? His better get that refund comment, and then his Instagram post that said uninvited guest as he's just slinging a freaking touchdown. The balls on that kid. I just love it. I absolutely love it. I wish we had more shit talk in the NFL. I wish we had more people that would talk to the media the way he does, that would post those kind of things, just swag.
So two comments or 2 kind of discussion points. One, does the Joey B. Jamar Chase, college to professional combo, and then you also see this happening in Philly with Hurts to the Slim Reaper, Devontae Smith. Is this going to be a new draft strategy for NFL teams? So that's point 1. So let's talk about that first, and we'll talk about the second point.
I think it should be. I mean, as long as both players are at the caliber that you're looking for or has the potential, then 100%, because you've got, especially if they're at key positions like that, where they've been like interacting for at least 3 years at the college level. I mean, you've already got chemistry built there and stuff. Obviously, you're not going to do it if his favorite wideout was like not necessarily a, NFL caliber player, but especially if you got like, a first round quarterback and maybe like a late second, third round wideout or something that you can snag or potentially trade for, I think it could be huge.
I think it's a decent strategy, but I think it's only a strategy for the right team. And I think if you look at those 2 as an example, right, they grabbed the quarterback in the first round, and then they actually grabbed those guys in the next year's draft, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Very nice.
Because they're high caliber receivers that still, so maybe 2 or 3 years playing with each other. So I think that's what the strategy has to be. And that means you're probably going to be a bottom of the league team for a couple of years, but look at the turnaround in Cincinnati, specifically with that connection. Yeah. It's going to be hard for anybody else to line that up with a top tier receiver and a top tier quarterback, but I love it. And I think it's fun. Didn't Jamar Chase buy the house right next door to Joe Burrow's in his neighborhood?
I'm sure he did. I'm sure.
I mean, I would if it was my teammate.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's interesting about it is like when you go back in history and you look at these quarterbacks, these generational quarterbacks, generally they had a receiver with them for a long time. Like you look at Jacksonville. Jacksonville brought Etienne in with Lawrence, which is great to kind of give him some chemistry. But like you had Manning had Marvin Harrison. Rodgers for a long time had Devontae Adams. Jerry Rice, Joe Montana. So like it almost is like a great quarterback needs a great receiver to be with them for an extended period of time for this to actually work and to build dynasties. And it seems like both, like especially Burrow has got that going with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is a stud.
What, aside from Tom Brady, can you think of a great NFL quarterback that didn't have like that favorite receiver that just spread it around and had success? Flacco in Baltimore, did he have a favorite receiver?
Yeah, it's Steve Smith Sr.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously that's a major connection, a major key to success. It'll be interesting to see if other teams try that strategy. Spence, this year's draft, is there anybody that, who's our top college QBs, and is there a chance their favorite receiver comes through?
Not sure, man. I haven't really looked at much of that stuff. I mean, again, the NFL is a different world. Bryce Young is a fucking competitor, man. I mean, that guy single-handedly carried Alabama to their 10-2 or 11-2 record or whatever. And for their 2 losses, he did absolutely everything that he could. But I've heard some people saying that he's undersized. And I don't know I don't know what his frame is. I don't know if he just needs to put on weight or if he just doesn't have the height that is required at that level. But he's mobile. He takes hits like a champ. He can sling the ball. I mean, I would have to think that he would be considered still a first-round pick. But I don't know of the eligible quarterbacks going into the draft this year, like who would be considered the number 1 QB pick. I mean, you've got Bryce Young, who's the cat out of Ohio State, JT Stroud, CJ Stroud, whatever the hell his name is. He's probably up there. I don't necessarily see Hendon Hooker as a viable first-round QB, especially after blowing his knee out. I think he's probably –
Will Levis.
That dude's a chode. I don't – he couldn't – Tennessee had the worst secondary in the country, and he got picked off 3 times and threw for like 14 yards. And you want to tell me – I get it. It's like all about his potential and shit, but – come on, dude.
That's me throwing a grenade, dude. I don't think Will Levis is worth the damn. I just knew it would get a rise out of you.
Will Levis can lick my butthole, dude. That guy, especially the arrogance on him, too. Like, it's one thing to get your ass handed to you. It happens to anybody that's competed at a high level. I get it. But, like, when all the little shitty comments he was talking before the Tennessee game, well, they've got the video game numbers, but we play real football here at UK or whatever. Apparently, real football is 3 picks and 14 yards. So, I don't know. Not impressed with that dude. And I get it. It's Kentucky. They're a run-first offense and everything. But everybody's been on his dick all season, and I just didn't see anything from him. And, again, it's Kentucky, so he doesn't probably have the right weapons around him and stuff. Maybe you put him into, an NFL team and he excels. But from what I've seen, that dude is, he'll make a great second or third string quarterback in the NFL for 5 years.
NFL teams love project quarterbacks. Because Will Levis has been getting thrown around as like a top 10 prospect in the NFL.
Yeah.
And if you look at NFL draft, like Mitch Trubisky, Jamarcus Russell, I mean, dude, I could literally go through every year someone's like, oh, this guy's good. Trey Lance.
Russell.
Trey Lance. Yeah, I dropped Jamarcus Russell.
I remember that dude. It was him and Brady Quinn in that draft class. You know who reminds me of Jamarcus Russell? Joe Milton. Giant dude that can throw the ball 50 yards from a seated position or whatever. But, I don't know. He never did anything, did he? I know Brady Quinn didn't. I don't think Jamarcus. And JM went like.
was considered one of the worst busts of all time.
He was number 1 draft pick, wasn't he?
Yep. The Raiders. NFL teams love white quarterbacks that can throw the ball a mile with 0 accuracy. That's what NFL teams love. Josh Allen's a great example, right? It's Brady Quinn is another great example. Those dudes, yeah.
I think historically it was that way, but I think now they're going for dual threats, and unfortunately, there's not very many white dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL. But you are right. Like I think Johnny Manziel went a lot higher because he was a dual threat quarterback who was marketable.
Yeah.
Marketable is debatable.
Speaking of Brady Quinn, hats off to that dude being the most yoked quarterback I've ever seen play the game.
Yeah, he was jacked.
Anyways.
Actually, I don't know, man. Jalen Hurts is the most yoked quarterback I've ever seen.
Yeah. We just talked
Dude
about his
cut.
weight room numbers. Yeah.
Speaking of teams that might need a quarterback next year because theirs is concussed beyond all belief, Cowboys 49ers, that was just it was really something with the blocked kick to the final play. I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. I don't know what McCarthy's doing. Wasting generational talents. Couldn't happen to a better fan base.
Jerry Jones needs to just A, give up control of the team because he makes terrible decisions. But B, people hate on Dak, and I don't think he looked good in that game. But if you look at Dak's actual numbers, Dak is a good quarterback. He just has shitty coaches, dude. Before McCarthy, it was the redheaded guy. That guy was terrible.
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, Jason Garrett. Freaking terrible too, dude.
The sideline clapper. No, I don't think Dak is bad. I think he's injury prone. I think setting up a play where Ezekiel Elliott's your only blocker. That last play was just, I was in awe. I was in absolute awe. Brock Purdy, fun fact, now has more playoff wins than Dak Prescott and Tony Romo combined.
Fucking love it.
Dude, Brock Purdy. I saw a picture of it was a meme that said the rematch we didn't know we needed when it was Brock Purdy versus Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma versus Iowa State, and Purdy had like 4 touchdowns.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw
For that.
Spicy. Yeah, dude, I feel bad for the Cowboys fans. They just haven't been relevant since, what, like 95 or something?
95.
I mean, have they ever won more, like outside of a wild card game, have they won a playoff game since then?
I don't think
I feel like I feel like they've been one and done every year. Like that was always Romo's big thing, right? Like he couldn't make it in the playoffs and stuff, and now you're seeing the same trend with Dak. It's like they've got a curse or something. I don't know. It's weird. But I love Purdy. That dude's story is sick. I would love to see him win a Super Bowl. That would be fucking incredible. And then the question is,
There you go.
Okay, if San Francisco wins a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, what does the quarterback situation look like at the 49ers? Does Garoppolo go somewhere else? Does he go to like the Raiders or something? Or I mean, are you going to get rid of a budding superstar who came off the bench and won you a Super Bowl?
Garoppolo's gone, I think, no matter what. I think the real issue becomes, what do you do with
Trey Lance?
Trey Lance, who was your first-round pick. You spent all this draft capital on him. I mean, he's still young. He can still develop. But I don't know how – if they win, how can you justify sitting a Super Bowl winning quarterback? You can't.
I also don't think Trey Lance looked terrible in his 2 games. Like, I don't even if he doesn't win, which he's not going to win because I just told you Philly's going to take it. So that he's not going to win. But I still think it becomes a quarterback competition next year, and I don't see Trey Lance beating him in Kyle Shanahan's system. But the bigger story is I'm pretty sure Mattress Mac has lost all the money that he won on the Astros in like the last 2 weeks. Like he put $2 million on the Cowboys to beat the Niners. And last week, the week before, he put a ridiculous sum of money on another team to win and they lost as well.
Yeah, I think he bet on TCU like a fucking moron.
Yeah, TCU.
Apparently, he doesn't read my newsletter for college picks because he's lost a ton of money this college football season. I was just reading something about that. He dropped $1.5 million on TCU to win the college football championship, which good for him for having the money to be able to do that. But holy shit,
Dude, $3.5 million he lost in like in less than a month.
Yeah.
Dude, you're not moving units like that unless you can, and Mattress Max 100% can.
Yeah.
He's got it, but that still hurts.
He's
That
lost
still
over
hurts.
$9 million betting against Georgia in the last 2 college football playoff games.
At that point, I mean, if I'm like his heir to his throne, I'm trying to make it seem like he's senile and taking control of him, so he can't do this anymore. This dude's pissing away the family fortune.
It is interesting. But you know what? If you looked at the betting trends, everybody was on TCU. I didn't see it. I don't know. Whatever.
But
I know
for Mac,
it's plus money. The professor was probably all over it too, for being honest.
you better believe it. But for Mac, it's a business strategy, right? Like he's endeared himself so much to the people of Texas by doing that money comes back tenfold in business, right? If you got to go buy a mattress in Houston, Texas, you're going to Mattress Max. You're not going anywhere else.
How many mattresses are you selling to make back $3.5 million? That dude's got to sell the whole state of Texas.
I think he sells furniture and some other stuff too, you know.
Yeah, dude. Also, it's Texas. Nobody gives a fuck about TCU. They're riding with either the Longhorns or the Aggies. Any other program in that state's balls. And I know TCU had a great year and they were fun to watch, but like their fan base is not necessarily one that's going to go buy extra mattresses because you put money on their team.
They got some big houses in Dallas, my friend.
Yes, they do.
Lots of bedrooms.
All the guys that went to business school at Texas that moved to Dallas. Not TCU.
Oh,
I don't know. Not seeing it.
The thing that killed me about that game is, and this is because I was betting on it, I love to bet on these like weird things. Like Professor knows we were on Dak's rushing yards. That was tasty. But I was on TY over 25.5 yards. T.Y.'s first catch, 15 yards, and then they don't look at him again. And I was watching T.Y. He was open every freaking play. McCarthy is such a bad play caller. He's such a bad play caller.
Jerry said his job's safe.
It's Kellen Moore. It's actually Kellen Moore, but who's good, but it's under the McCarthy system.
Exactly. That's the issue. I think Kellen Moore has the talent. He showed the talent he had even under Garrett. He's trying to design this offense in spite of the rest of the system, and he does a pretty decent job with it. Shout out Boise State, Kellen Moore, but I don't know. I don't think McCarthy's a good coach. He pissed away Aaron Rodgers' greatest years, got 1 Super Bowl, right? Which, granted, it's a Super Bowl, but I think they had the teams and they had the talent to go a lot further. And now we see what he's doing with Dak's prime years. But Jerry's loyal for all his faults. You got to give that to Jerry. He is loyal to his guys.
So here's a question, and Spence, since you have been watching pro for a long time, maybe you won't have a take on this, but if Rodgers replaced Brady in the Patriots era, would we be calling Rodgers the greatest of all time over Brady?
That's a very interesting question.
You're saying if Rodgers played at the Patriots instead of Brady, are we calling Rodgers the GOAT? Yeah.
I think so too. I think Rodgers is actually a better quarterback than Brady. He's never had the coach to get him to the end. The NFL is the most coach dependent league in professional
of all
sports league.
All sports.
Yeah, in all sports by far.
Yeah, I think so. And I think this year granted Brady's 45. They had a stacked Tampa Bay team when they won the Super Bowl. But the argument always was it Brady or Belichick or Robert Kraft for letting them build those teams and letting them do it the way they did it. He deserves a lot of credit that he doesn't get as a GM for not interfering and things like that. But it was just a perfect storm. I don't think we'll ever see a dynasty like that again. The Chiefs are getting close, but I don't know how much longer they can afford to keep it together. And I don't know that Andy Reid can go out and find that second tier talent that makes Mahomes look as good as the second tier talent made Brady look at the Patriots.
Yeah, that was something that Belichick always had a nose for, is he'd be getting these obscure guys that nobody had ever heard of, and then all of a sudden they're balling for the Pats. I think that's, I think that's a great question. I don't know a lot about Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's a great quarterback, or was in his prime. But I'm curious what other aspects go into it, like the mindset and stuff. I'm not sure if you guys have watched that documentary on Tom Brady. I forget what the name of it is. It's pretty good. I don't know. I remain more skeptical on that question than saying it's an automatic. If you plug him in, he has the same type of success.
It's a good question.
Okay, similar type quarterback, Peyton Manning in his prime in the Patriot system.
I don't know, dude. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Peyton being a Tennessee boy for sure, but who knows? I mean, we could sit here and fucking armchair quarterback this thing all day. Peyton went to what, 4 Super Bowls and won 2 of them? I mean, his big dig was that he could never win the big game, which is sort of bullshit because he does have 2 Super Bowl rings. But like in college, he can never beat Florida. He never won a national title. And that was kind of like the stigma that followed him around. He's certainly, when it comes to preparation, perhaps the most prepared and analytical quarterback maybe that's ever played the game. But there's just more to it. The intangible type stuff, I don't know. I think Brady just brought something to the table that the Peyton Mannings and the Aaron Rodgers didn't necessarily have, or at least not at the level that he did for them to have the same kind of success that Brady had in the Patriots, I think is my take on the situation.
I have very strong feelings about the 2 Super Bowl rings number. You guys know me. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. Birds aren't real. They were sent by the government to spy on us. The coronavirus pandemic was the lockdowns was the government's mistake, and they had to change out all the batteries in the birds. This is one that I believe with all my heart. That interception that he threw against the Saints in the Super Bowl, they paid him to throw that interception so New Orleans could win the Super Bowl after Katrina and have the celebration, and we would all ignore the disasters that took place in Katrina because, look, they won a Super Bowl. That I will go to my grave believing that Peyton should have 3. 99 times out of 100, he doesn't throw that interception.
Well, but then you also have to put an asterisk on the other end. I like the ride off into the sunset story for the sheriff. Dude had a straight noodle arm when he won it with the Broncos.
He had one of the best defenses ever, too, though.
He did. That defense won them that Super Bowl. But there were also games that year where he just did Peyton Manning shit. I mean, I don't remember which game it was. I was sitting there watching, and it was like, 32 seconds left on the clock, and homeboy just drives him 94 yards to get I think they went into overtime and ended up losing or whatever.
Against the Ravens, right?
I'm not sure. It's been many whiskeys ago. But yeah, that was back when they had the fucked up overtime system. So it was like, dude drives him all the way down the field, ties it up, but then the other team gets the ball first to kick a field goal and the game's over. Like, you don't even get a chance to answer. I always hated that shit. I'm glad they changed it.
That was the worst. That legitimately was the worst.
Like, you got to have, the college system had its flaws too, as anybody that watched that LSU A&M game that went to like 7 overtimes a couple years ago.
What the hell are you talking about, flaws? That was one of the greatest games ever.
I loved
7
it.
7 OTs.
A lot of people were upset with it. Anyways, I mean, you could have a game go on for like 3 days technically if guys keep punching it in, but they seem to have both met in the middle on those. So that was a great fucking game. It was on Thanksgiving too.
There were flaws, but that was not one of them. Trust me.
Oh man.
Oh goodness. All right, let's recap our gambling weekend. I think the most appropriate place to start. Beard, you laid out a juicy player prop. You recorded it for all the world to see. You sent it to the groups. Tell us how that went, my friend.
I literally from the get-go, I was like, the first one I put out didn't do so hot. Second one I put out, miss on a very bad miss by Christian Kirk. I'm recording it, and sometimes when you're clicking, you're just like, this looks good. And as I'm building, I was like, oh, this looks good. My toes were tingling, and sure enough, that shit, it hit. It was a close cover. Jamar Chase, 60 yards. I think he got 61. But what's even crazier is I had that 5-gamer, and then I tied it with a 5-gamer in the second game that I hit 3 of the 5 on. T.Y. Hilton being one of the ones I missed on, freaking pissing me off. T.Y. and Debo to score. That would have won me $8,000. So I won in the EPL in the morning, which I didn't post. Sorry, no one here watches EPL, but I won in the EPL, and then I flipped that into that. So that was a tasty day. Thou shalt cover.
Stash, you want to cover your gambling weekend, or is it better left
My gambling
forgotten?
weekend was non-existent because I'm in fucking California, except for the $50 loss when I was riding on Jordan and Patrick's bullshit Giants plus 23.5 live bet.
Dude, looking at Patrick, I could have just told you without even knowing that Patrick can't gamble either. Like, what were you thinking, dude?
I wasn't thinking. I just got sucked in. It was the addiction. That's all it was. I was like, man, I haven't gambled, and I guess we gambled on that Tennessee game, but whatever. It felt like it'd been a long time. You guys were in the Slack posting all your picks and stuff, and so I had an opportunity, and I jumped on it. Who knows?
Well, soon you'll be back to the land of logic, and you'll be able to post some bets.
Unfortunately, Florida hasn't approved it yet either, so I think I'm going to have to get hooked up with Kyle's bookie. He's got like a little app they use and shit. And at the same time, though, I mean, now that football season's coming to an end, I probably won't be sprinkling too much shit until next August. So
USFL.
Can we gamble on USFL?
USFL. We're going to find a way.
I can't. I want to so bad, but I know I'm going to be bad at it, and it's going to drive me nuts, and I'm just going to sink so much money into a bottomless pit that is the USFL.
You know what? I think that Boyd and I would thrive in the USFL because it's all the college players that we know that couldn't make it in the NFL, and you can just go ahead and ride the stash on that one.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say this is our middle ground, right here in between.
You sound like that 80-year-old guy I see in the sports book who's only betting Mac Nation, who's like, I specialize in D3 untelevised football. They're sitting there listening to the radio, handheld radio. That's how they're getting their picks, dude.
Hey, you know what? We had one D3 pick this year for the Merchant Marine Academy, and they covered, so I'm undefeated on D3 football picks.
That's a fact.
There you go. You're going to be that guy. You're going to be that guy, dude.
Bear down. The professor had, we'll call it an even weekend. Won some, I lose some. I had a nice little baby parlay, riding the mullet on some UFC, which there's some debate as to a couple of those calls. That short stoppage, medical stoppage was, I don't know. I guess I saw the picture afterwards with all the blood. Maybe it was probably a good stoppage, but at the time it was not a good stoppage.
The mullet had a pretty solid weekend, did he not? I didn't get to watch any of the fights.
It was okay. I think he was about 50-50.
But you made money, right?
Yeah, because the way the UFC bets go, with their juicy parlays, you pick the winner, but you also got to pick the method or the round or all three. And he's damn good at that, man. He's got a talent for picking fights.
We'll have to try and get a. Go ahead, Beard.
I was gonna say anyone who's sponsored by George Washington himself is just
George Washington and Tennessee Moonshine
and Buc-ee's.
Dude, I was shitting my pants when I queued up that video. Holy Christ!
Oh, we have to have him do a podcast, dude.
I know. Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say before we went on the George Washington thing was that it would be cool to get a pre-fight podcast with him on here, and let him have a couple drinks and talk about his picks and just be his genuine self.
At some point, I think we need to set up a Twitch channel where he can live stream himself watching the game. Like, I think that would be so
great
good.
idea.
Or watching the fights. I'm sorry. I want him to commentate the fights. So we got to get him a headset, live stream commentating the fights.
We'll have to get together for one of these fights, and we could live stream it. Today was trash day, and I woke up and heard the trash. I just started dying. Luckily, I remember to put mine out.
With the Trash Tuesday thing, it was so good. Speaking of getting together, Beard, I was talking to none other than Uncle Gino, who is frothing at the bit to get on this podcast. And as you may know, he goes to Vegas for March Madness every year for a few days. And he wanted to float the invite to the Beards to see if they'd potentially want to come gamble, watch some college hoops, and do a in-person podcast recording. So I'll leave that out here for you guys to marinate on for the next month or so as the college hoops season progresses.
That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. We should, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right, boys. So let's close this out. Championship round. We'll start with the AFC. Chiefs, Bengals. Who you got?
I am actually, and I don't know what the spread is. Let me actually look at this. Spence, you go first because I'm gonna throw something crazy out there.
Okay, so let me preface this with I've done no research and I don't know anything about the NFL, and I haven't used Beard's betting strategy, which is honestly one of the greatest things I've ever seen before as far as looking at the analytics and trends behind a bet. I'm going pure off gut, and I'm taking fucking Joey B, Iceman, to win that game.
Anyone who's known me long enough knows that my life consists of zero strategy. And I think with my heart and sometimes with other things. And Joey B makes that other thing pretty excited. I'm on the Bengals all day long, pounding that money line.
Also, I don't know, has anything come out on Mahomes' injury?
I mean, it was definitely at minimum a high ankle sprain. So either they're going to shoot that guy up with so much cortisone that he won't be able to fill that leg, or he's going to be hobbled in the game for sure. Yeah,
I'm riding Burrow train all day.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Burrow. That's a safe bet. Burrow.
Although if Chad Henne's on the fucking field, statistically, like we just talked about, he's undefeated in playoff games. So stay tuned to the injury report, folks, because we may be switching that pick if the 37-year-old Michigan phenom is under center this weekend.
Dude, if anyone could take down Chad Henne, it is Joe Burrow. If there's anyone in the world that can take him down. So I'm going to go with you guys 3-0 against Mahomes. I'm taking Burrow. But if I want to get a little crazy, I'm going to take the Bengals alt line minus 6.5 at plus 190.
Ooh,
tasty.
I love the plus money. That's juicy.
Yeah, that one's I feel it.
All right. All right, and then the NFC Championship played in Philadelphia at the Link with some of the craziest Philly trash you've ever seen. Beard, you already gave us your pick, but I'll let you give us some extra juice in there. Spence, who you got? Stash, who you got?
This is tough because I love, as we've already talked about, both Purdy and Jalen Hurts. But the recency bias of Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant and what he's done in the back third of the season, Philly's going to win the game. I would love for Purdy to win it, but I think the storybook probably ends this weekend. It may even get ugly, honestly, especially after what they did to the Giants. I don't know, man. I feel like they are just running on all cylinders right now. I don't necessarily see
I think
the Niners hanging with them.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Stash. Home field advantage. Hurts is a monster. Yeah. It's been really fun to watch the Brock Purdy show and see him come from that. But the way they looked last week against a team, I mean, they handled Dallas, but their offense looked pretty anemic.
Yeah, it was a tough game offensively.
I think I'm going to have to go with Philly, and my pick of the game is Hurts anytime rushing touchdown.
I like it.
There he is.
Yeah, I'm going Philly. I don't know what the yardage total is going to be on Hurts running, but the Niners are notorious for over committing on the DN on the defensive line. So I think Hurts is going to get a lot of rushing yards. My pick is going to be Eagles, and then I'm going to say A.J. Brown, who's been shut out the last 2 or 3 games, gets a touchdown in that game. Anytime touchdown, A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he was gone last week. It was crazy. You got to think they fire him back up for this, get him ready to go.
Yep.
It's a great pick. Great pick.
Episode 2 in the books, man. It feels good.